Legal disclaimer. I know that's what I do for a living, so let me go ahead and read this out loud for you. All information provided today at the seminar is based on California laws and for informational purposes only. No information is presented constitutes legal advice. Your attendance does not create an attorney-client privilege between us, and all attendees will not have their legal problems resolved, and answers to questions do not constitute legal advice because I don't have all the answers to your questions. The opinions expressed at the seminar are my own personal expressions and do not represent the opinions of other attorneys. Okay? All right. I think I'll just go ahead and take this mic. Okay, well, it's always great to be back here at the board. When I first started as a real estate broker about 20 years ago, I remember this was the first board that I joined. And back then, the board was at Palm Avenue, for those of you that still remember. And that old location right now is going to be turned into a Crowne Plaza hotel. And for those of you who keep up with politics, they just received the entitlement last week. So it will be nice to see a new hotel go up in that area. Just a little bit about myself. I mainly practice in real estate, immigration, business, and corporate law. When I first started practicing about 11 years ago, I handled a lot of cases for individuals and small businesses. And now 11 years later, most of my clientele are medium to large corporations and many foreign nationals from Asia, particularly China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Philippines, and Singapore. As all of you know, what's driving the market nowadays are all cash deals, right? So just to get an understanding, how many realtors here have handled buyers from foreign countries in the last year? Raise your hand. Okay, that's pretty much the majority of realtors here. And how many of those foreign buyers were all cash offers? Okay, that's pretty much about at least half of the people here. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the strategies that foreign nationals use in this hot real estate market. One of the opportunities I have is the ability to travel overseas at least twice a year. And a lot of the people that I come in contact with think very differently than how we think here in the US. And that's mainly based on their environment. Some foreign investors grow up in an environment that is not considered a level playing field. What I'm trying to say is that they come from countries that are not democratic. They may come from a dictatorship or a communist system. And so they have to be especially competitive. And others grow up in a very poor environment. Others encounter a lot of corruption. And so they have to be able to think outside the box. So sometimes when you encounter some of these foreign investors, you're surprised at the way they think. But actually, if you understand the environment that they grew up in, they have to be competitive and think in a way which allows them to achieve their goals. One thing that you might even feel somewhat offended is that their ethics are different than ours. Just because the American way of doing business is commonplace here, it's not the world's way of doing business. So I'm going to go over some of the background about these foreign investors, and then I'm going to go into 4 key strategies that I've encountered personally from my clients and also from realtors, okay? All right, so let's look at some of the housing statistics. Now, these are the latest statistics from CAR's 2013 survey. 67% of investors paid with cash. 27% were investors from foreign countries, China, India, and Mexico. And 59% of investors found their property on MLS. 66% of investors intend to keep the property for less than 6 years. And 26% of investors intend to flip the property within a year. Now, if you look at the statistics here, what's really telling is the all-cash offers And why is that? Well, basically, America is on sale right now, as you know, right? When people come to the U.S., they see, wow, you know, everything is very, very inexpensive. The houses, the cars, even the name brand items. So they go out to Cabazon and buy a handful of purses and shoes and bring it back to their home country to resell it. So the economy right now is still recovering. It's going to take a little bit more time. And I think that probably, maybe in the next 2 years or so, we should be out of this mess. So let's look at the top 5 countries for foreign buyers of U.S. homes. The first one is Canada, 23% of the sales. Second is China with 12% of sales. Third is Mexico with 8%. And India is 5%. United Kingdom, Great Britain is 5%. Now, if you look at this pie chart, you'll see that more than 25% are foreign investors. So the 68% represents U.S. buyers. And if you look here, the 6% represents China, 3% represents India, another 3% represents Mexico, 15% are other nationalities, and 5% we just don't know who they are. But if you see that the 25% are foreign investors, you can pretty much get a sense as to how well the market is doing and why our market is recovering so quickly, especially in this area. And 2/3 of the investors rent property. Of the 2/3, if you look at the pie chart again, 26% actually flip them. Now, some of you may find that interesting. How can you flip properties in this market? Well, believe it or not, a lot of the properties used to be short sales and foreclosures. So they buy them at a relatively low price, and then they fix them up, turn them around, and put them back on the market. So even with the low inventory, they're still able to flip it. I know that in our area here in the West San Gabriel Valley, it's a little bit harder because the prices are already above fair market value, and there's a lot of offers coming in. But in other areas, such as San Bernardino, Riverside County, there's still a good chance of flipping. Okay, now, top 5 reasons for buying. Okay, I want everybody here to look at this chart right here. Now, when you buy real estate, what do you normally look for? Right. Who said location? Right, Lorraine, location, right? That's the key part. Location, location, location. But look at this chart. What do you see?
It's done.
Right. Location is the bottom of the top 5 reasons. Now, how is that possible? Well, what this tells us is that these foreign nationals don't care about the location. They only care about making a profit. So even if it's next to a cemetery or railroad track, they'll still buy it. So the profit potential is the number 1 reason, 33.7%. Next is good price, 25.9%. Third is low interest rates, 9.8%. And fourth is for personal reasons, 5.5%. And finally, we get down to location, 3.9%. Wow, isn't that disappointing? But it's good for you, right? Now you don't have to worry where the property is located, as long as it's a good deal. Okay, so I'm going to get into some of the strategies that are used by foreign nationals. Now, these are relatively aggressive strategies. Some of you may have already counted them in your current transactions, and some of you may have never heard of them. This may be the first time. But I want you to understand one thing here before I begin, is that I'm not a motivational speaker, so I'm not going to tell you how to run your business or what you should or should not do. I'm not going to fake or hype any information here. This is basically based on my own experience that I've encountered with realtors and with my clients from overseas. So you can take the information, use it as you see fit, okay? All right, now here's the first strategy that foreign nationals use. They dump their selling agent. Okay, this is how it works. Let's say that you have a buyer from a foreign country. He comes here and he says to you, I want to buy that house in Diamond Bar. at the Country. Now, how many people know where the Country is? Majority of you know, right? It's a well-known area in Diamond Bar on top of the hilltop. It's a gated community, over 250 plus homes. It's actually a very hot area right now. So the buyer goes out and finds his agent. Okay, let's say you happen to represent this buyer. You make an offer. Counter offer comes back, and you find out it's a multiple counter offer situation, which is usually the case right now. And it comes back above asking price. And the listing agent tells you, listen, we've got 5 other offers in. They're all cash offers. They're all above asking price, and I'm going to counter all of them. And so you ask the listing agent, well, what's the chance of my buyer getting this property? And the listing agent says, well, you know, it really depends on how high you're willing to go. Okay. So your buyer realizes that there's a slim chance he will get this property, but he likes it. He likes it a lot. So what does he do? This is what he does. He tells you, listen, Mr. Buyer Agent, I really like you a lot. I really do. And I appreciate that you found this property for me. But at the same time, I know that if I have to fight for this property, it's going to get overbid. And there's a chance that I may not be able to get my offer accepted. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to go tell the listing agent that you are no longer representing me. And you want the listing agent to represent my interests. And at the same time, I will agree to sign a commission agreement with you to pay you your end of the commission if my offer is accepted. I know that you're getting 2.5%, I'll agree to pay you 2%. So what does the selling agent say? Well, he thinks about it, he says, well, I don't have to do anything. I'm gonna get 2%. So why not? So the selling agent calls the listing agent and says, listen, my buyer doesn't want me to represent him anymore. He wants you to represent him, and he's gonna pay me a separate commission on the side. So what does the listing agent say? He says, oh, okay, why not? I'm gonna double in this deal anyway, right? So he goes ahead and represents the buyer that was previously represented by you. And eventually what happens? He ends up being the highest offer, okay? Some of you may think, wow, this buyer is really sneaky, and that listing agent is really unethical. But if you think about it, there's really nothing wrong here, because everybody has agreed to this type of arrangement. The selling agent is going to get paid his commission from the buyer. The listing agent is going to double in the deal and close the sale. Now, we're all assuming that this listing agent is working for the best interests of the seller, okay? But, you know, that's another story, right? So that's the first tactic that they use. And actually, this was used quite often back in the days where people were selling land. They would approach the listing agent directly and negotiate a deal, okay? Now, the second strategy that foreign nationals use is called multiple family offers. This is how I encountered this situation about a year ago. A seller came into my office. He was very upset. He presented me with 2 offers to look at. One offer was from a buyer, and the buyer's name was Shipping. The other offer was from another buyer, and the buyer's name was Ding Dong. And he said, there is something weird here. I think I'm being scammed because these 2 buyers are from people that have funny names. And so I looked at both of these offers. I looked at the proof of service. The proof of service was from Bank of China. And I tried to keep a straight face. And I told the seller, I said, Mr. Seller, you're not getting scammed here. The selling agent misspelled some of the names. The first offer is not from Shipping. It's from Xi Ping. The second offer is not from Ding Dong. It's from Dong Ding. And so after I explained that to the seller, he said, okay, So these are legitimate offers, right? I said, yes. He said, well, then why are they almost exactly the same, except for one offer has a higher deposit than the other? And I said, well, you know, it's possible. Maybe they just happen to be coincidences. And the seller said, well, I don't think so. I think they're related. And I told the seller, I said, well, even if they are related, there's nothing in the law that says related parties can't make separate offers on the same property. And he said, yeah, that's true. And he asked me, so what should I do? I said, you know, look at all the offers and pick the highest and best one. And he said, so what if they're related? And I said, so what if they're related? And the seller said, well, they're trying to game the system. I said, in what way? He says, well, if they're all related, then when I make these counter offers, either one of them, because of their relationship, will get the property. And I mentioned this, well, what do you care? You just want to sell the property to the highest and best buyer, right? As long as it's ready, willing, and able. So he went back, made multiple counter offers, and eventually one of these two offers that he had presented me actually ended up in escrow. And a while later, about 1 week before close of escrow, we found out that they actually were related. They're husband and wife. The way we found out was, you know, in escrow, before you close, the escrow also always has the buyer fill a personal information questionnaire, right? Where you list your name, social security number, your spouse, so on and so forth. So that's how we found out. This situation has happened quite frequently because many foreign nationals, they know that there's a shortage of housing on the market. They want to try to maximize the chances, so they enlist their relatives to help them. And normally they have separate agents, so the agents don't know each other. Also, when they make these offers, they're so close and so similar that they both look so good on paper, but in actuality, they're all based on the same family criteria, the same source of funds. So that's one way of them trying to outplay the other buyers. The third strategy that some of these foreign nationals use are called the sad story offer. This is when they send in a letter along with their offer to the seller. Now, how many of you have encountered these buyers before? Just by show of hands. Okay, so I see several, right? The whole purpose is to tug the heartstrings of the seller, to try to get their pity. And sometimes it works. I've had the opportunity to draft some of these letters for the buyers. Sometimes they stretch the truth. Usually what they say is something along the lines, you know, I've got a relative or a son or a daughter that has autism or some kind of illness. I really want to buy your property because it's close by to a medical facility. Or they will say, I come from a country where it's a communist style system and I've never had the opportunity to have my own property and I want to realize the American dream, American freedom, civil liberty, so on and so forth. And in some extreme cases, they will even mention that they've been persecuted in their home country so that they have the opportunity to tell their story to somebody that sympathizes to them, with their plight. Some of the sellers also interview the buyers after they read these sad stories because they want to see if this is a real true story or if they're making it up. Some sellers also insist on seeing some of the buyer's personal information. That is, they want to see if they're really a foreign national, they want to see copies of a passport or visa. And in other cases, they may even go so far as to call their relatives in their home country. Okay. I know that some of the high-end sellers that I've worked with, they have a special attachment to their property. So regardless of whether they receive a letter from the buyer, they still interview the buyers. We had one case where there was a attorney in Pasadena that was selling one of his Victorian-style homes for about $4 million. And every single buyer that submitted an offer had to go through an interview process with this attorney, and they all felt like they were being interrogated. It was not a good thing. But unfortunately, that's the situation with some sellers. They choose to do this because they want to make sure the person who's buying the property is going to take care of it well. And other times, they just simply want to see whether that sad story is true. And the final tactic that's used by some of these buyers is what we call a sweetener offer. This is where you throw something in a pot to make it more attractive. Now, how many realtors have had situations similar to this? Okay, maybe 1 or 2, right? Now, this is usually what happens. They make an offer, okay, and multiple offers come back, and so the buyer realizes, okay, I'm going to have a hard time. So they throw something in the pot. They basically tell the seller, if you accept my offer, I will give you this in exchange. Now, it might be something of monetary value. It might be something intangible, such as services. So this is one situation that my client has used. I represented an owner of a day spa, and they made an offer on a property in San Marino, came back with multiple counter offers. So this is what they told the listing agent and the seller. They said, here's my offer, this is the best and final offer, and I'm also going to throw you a 1-year gift certificate to use our day spa for unlimited visits, unlimited massages, pedicures, manicures, foot massages, you name it. You can come in anytime with your friends and family, right? Other buyers have offered free round-trip tickets anywhere in the world, right? Yeah, and some have even offered free rides to amusement parks or free use of their timeshare in Hawaii or Florida, okay? I know that most listing agents, when they see these types of offers, they generally will try to persuade the seller, hey, take it, it's a good deal. You know, I'm coming along as well, why not, right? So a lot of the foreign nationals, they have the ability to do this because they have a lot of money. They're paying all cash. And as you know, cash is king in this economy. So there's something that all realtors should keep in mind is that when you deal with foreign nationals, have an open mind. Even if they appear to be making unreasonable demands or have outrageous and unorthodox methods of doing business, just try to understand where they're coming from. They're coming from a different environment where they have to operate competitively. One last thing I want to leave you with here is that a lot of the foreign nationals, they don't want you to know how they've made their money, and it's important that you don't ask them, okay? Because a lot of it is very personal. The only thing that you need to explain to them is, here in America, when you want to buy a house, we need to pre-qualify you, so we need to see your proof of funds. And normally they understand that. Normally they will provide bank accounts or some document or statement indicating they have all cash. If they ask you why I have to provide this information, this is none of your business. Basically explain to them, the seller's not going to talk to you. He's not going to look at your offer if you don't provide it. Some agents, they don't want to ask this information because they're afraid of offending the buyers. If you don't ask that information, and later on you submit the offer, you find out your client really isn't qualified, the money isn't there, he has to borrow it from somebody else, or he's just not a serious buyer, you've wasted a lot of time and energy. Not only your time and energy, but also the listing agents. So that's the 4 strategies that I want all of you to keep in mind here today. There's probably one more strategy that maybe some of you have encountered. I'm going to talk just a few minutes about that one. It's not here. That last one that I've encountered most recently, probably within the last couple of weeks, is what we call multiple counter offer, multiple offer situation. That is where the foreign national makes multiple offers on multiple properties, okay, all of you know that that's dangerous, right? Because the buyer could end up buying 2 or 3 properties at the same time. But for them, they don't really care, because if they end up with at least 1 property, they feel they can find a buyer to take over another property. So one thing that I always advise the agents to do is whenever you write these offers, make sure you put and or assignee, okay? It's very, very important. If you don't put and or assignee on the offer, you won't be able to assign this offer to another buyer. The seller can reject that. They don't have to amend escrow instructions. So a lot of times the foreign nationals, they will make offers on one property and say, Mr. Lee and or assignee, make a same offer on another property, also put down Mr. Lee and or assignee, end up getting accepted for both properties. They'll pick one property, keep that one, and the other property, they'll find a friend or family member to buy it. So that's basically what I have to give you today. And like I said, it's information that you can use in your daily practice. You may or may not like it, but if you come across some of these foreign nationals that use these strategies, just understand that they're doing it for their own reasons. Your job is to close the deal and make your commission, move on to the next property. All right, so if you have any questions afterwards, I'll be happy to answer them. And thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak with you here today.
Thank you, Mr. Shu. We do have a few moments for some questions. So if anybody has any questions for our special guest, the camera's right here. I mean, the microphone is here. And
I have a question.
Yes, Tom.
Ready? What?
I can hear you.
It's not on? Question didn't work. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry. You told us about ways that foreign nationals can maximize their potential for buying a property. Quite often, we have the problem with foreign nationals wanting to get out of a sale. Do you have any unique ways that you tell your clients that they can get out of a sale?
Yeah, that is a situation that I encounter once in a while. Generally speaking, it's very difficult to get out of the sale once all contingencies are removed. My advice to you is to try to keep the contingencies in place as long as possible, because some of these foreign nationals don't understand what a contract means. To them, they think it's a piece of paper, you use it and throw it away. And a lot of them have a tendency to change their minds, because where they come from, they don't have lawsuits like we do on a daily basis. Everything is settled on the side, and usually they end up paying somebody some money just to rescind the deal. So the best strategy I have is educate the buyers. Let them understand that in America, when you sign a contract, you have to abide by it and honor it. If you want to change your mind, you better do it before the contingencies expire or before you waive them. Otherwise, there's no exit strategy other than litigation. So hopefully that answers your question.